I would love to have Danny on to
Yeah,
see this
I love
conversation
Danny.
because
Let's bring him on.
we can go so
Sweet.
far into these, of course, anytime and whatnot. So let me see
Danny,
Danny put
bro.
it
Hey,
up on the big screen.
what's going on, guys?
That's good, Danny. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Um, yeah, Vor, you've been on a while, so maybe we could kind of keep this short. But it seems like a lot of this has to do with you seeing God as some like really good explanation for all of our agreeable, observable data. And so we can just talk a little bit about that. First question I would have, is there anything you can see in the natural world, like anything that would make you change your mind that there is no creator?
I'm gonna get my. I feel like I shouldn't just be a talking circle. Let me see if I can
Figure out your mic or camera.
out how to do that.
Oh yeah, click. Wait, I'm pretty sure I don't want to like explain because I'm pretty sure you know the multi guess the camera and then save. Did you get to third in the sub ranking? No, we still got a little bit to go. Everyone, what's up, man?
Vor. Yeah. So, is there anything that because look, if we're treating intelligent design or some kind of version of that seriously, at least in the sciences, then one question we have to ask ourselves is that okay, what is it that if we saw, we'd be like, not a likely hypothesis, right? So, I think Parker was highlighting part of a virtue in a hypothesis is simplicity, and y'all were talking about that. I think another virtue is that it can be falsified empirically if it's treated as an empirical hypothesis. So, is there anything that you could, in principle, see in the natural world that would make you revise your belief that the God hypothesis is a probable one? You're muted. You're muted.
I'll do sign language. Absolutely nothing that would tilt the scale in the other direction. I've shown you before in our debates. A lot of this to me is taking concepts and putting them in a scale and seeing which one outweighs the other. And so, I've heard the design issues. Why do people choke? Why is the number one and the number two so close together? I think kind of I had a really funny discussion with an atheist where I told him, tell me a better place to put number two. And he said to put it on the knee, which brought weird. Anyways, it was a whole silly thing. Anyways, I think that it sucks that people die. I think that I would love for the immune system to be more effective. I hate bugs. I fucking hate them, man. I live in northern Maine now, and they eat us alive. It's like I told my wife, like
You said bugs?
bugs. Yeah, I hate
I'm
them.
in Louisiana. You cannot complain. You
Oh
cannot
yeah,
complain.
I can.
Okay.
We have biting black
I
flies up
pay
here.
$60 a month to get rid of these things, and it does not enough.
Yeah, they're terrible. So I get it. They're part of the food chain. I don't know what kind of speciation we've seen, whatever. But it's like, okay, we need the bugs for the birds, and we eat the birds. So I told my wife, I'm like, well, I'll only eat cows if God can just get rid of the bugs. I don't need chicken anymore. So yeah, I hate bugs. I'm not sure exactly. I understand there's a purpose in the food chain, whatever. But yeah, nothing seriously. No, I don't see us. Do you have an issue with what? Clearly, this isn't a created order.
Well, it's just that it can't be falsified. Everything's consistent with your hypothesis.
Yeah, that's a good theory.
Well, the thing is that everything's consistent with atheism as well.
No.
Well, look, if we imagine, let's just make it simple. If we imagine one electron, a world where there's one electron, right? Mm-hmm. So let's take two worlds. When there's each of these worlds, there's only one electron. That's the only physical thing in these two worlds. One was created by an intelligence, and the other one is not. One, it just always existed or popped into being or was caused by some non-intelligent thing. Any of the three are fine, right? And all those three options are compatible with atheism. So the problem is that if that's the two worlds we're comparing, you can't appeal to the electron to know which world you're in. So if I put VOR in a room or in that one of these worlds, so here's the question. You take those two worlds, right? And I put you on one of them. How do you know which one you're in? Just seeing the electron.
I really try to stick with your, because I like your thought experiments. So the idea is you put one set of electrons in one world and one set of electrons in another
So you
world.
have
How
two
do you know which
worlds.
one you're?
You
Yeah.
have two worlds.
Okay.
One each have an electron in them.
Yep.
One was created by an
Worlds or
intelligent
universes, like realities, right?
like like a possible world, like a hypothetical. Okay, so two hypotheticals.
Okay.
Okay, one each hypothetical has an electron.
Okay.
Okay, and that's all there is physically speaking, naturally speaking. Okay,
So there's no space around it. It's just the electron, or
it's
is there
just the
space around it?
electron and whatever necessary conditions there are. You might need, space for electrons, or,
Okay.
but in one world, an intelligence brought about the electron. In the other world, no intelligence brought up the electrons. I place you randomly in one of these worlds, and all you could see and observe is that
Right.
electron. How do you know which world you're in?
Well, you wouldn't.
And so now, if I had two electrons, three electrons, I keep on adding matter all the way to a universe. So you have a world where you have a universe with all the matter and energy
Right.
produced by an intelligence. And then you have another world where it wasn't produced by an intelligence. And here we are, and there's no way to tell scientifically what world we're in. And that's
Right.
that's the problem.
That's not a problem. The problem with your argument is where did the electron come from in the world that there was no designing force to put the electron in?
So in the original hypothetical, you can't, if either is possible, then you can't know from just looking at the electron which world you're in.
Right, but based on our reality, either isn't possible. One is possible. The other is a fairy tale.
Okay. Well,
Just based on the laws of
I
physics.
think that there's, yeah, go ahead.
No, it's just not possible. Now you're asking me. Parker made this point earlier, to exist in a reality that is inconsistent with my observable reality. My context is I would go in and go, if you're asking me which, I don't know which one's which, but which one's more likely, this one has always existed, I would say bullshit. It doesn't happen unless it's in a different rule set in that reality.
The problem is that we have this world, we have the universe, and there's another possibility. You're saying it's impossible, and I'm about to ask you for
I'm
the
saying it's
argument.
less likely.
Okay, is it impossible that the universe has either a non-intentional cause or no intentional cause at all?
It's not impossible, but you would need the suspension of the laws of physics. You need a miracle.
Okay, either way, the point is that now we're wondering, okay, which possibility is the actual world are we actually in? Are we in that possibility where the universe is brought about by this intelligent being, or are we in that possibility where, or that space where the universe is brought about by a non-intelligent being or thing? And so the problem, it's a problem of, it's called a problem of underdetermination, right? The data that we're seeing in the natural world doesn't indicate to us what possibility we're in.
Okay, let's talk this through a little bit. Mm-hmm. So in this scenario, you said world, I said, is this a universe? I needed to know that. You said it's just a world, there could be space or whatever. I'm coming from my concept of observable reality, from the reality that I come from and knowing how rules work. I go to this place and you go, okay, one of these is created by a designer and one of them isn't. And I go, okay, fine, I can't tell which one's which. How did the one get here not created by a designer? And I would ask you how that happened, and you would say what?
Okay, wait. I think I'm being misunderstood. I'm fine with you repeating your question, but maybe if I could take an example where there's a problem where we both agree there's a problem. Okay, mm-hmm. So I think that so imagine this. Imagine you and I are car mechanics. Okay,
I got that.
And someone brings to us a car that won't start, and what we do is we put we turn the ignition, and it can't start. Now, is that enough to know that it's either a bad battery, or there's no gasoline, or there's something wrong with the alternator? Does that itself tell us what?
You diagnostically go through the whole. Yeah, what's
exactly.
wrong?
And so the idea is that the car not starting, it is data that it could be all sorts of explanations for that. It underdetermines what we should believe about the cause, right? That piece of data is consistent with all sorts of explanations in terms of what could be wrong with the car, right? So then what we do as mechanics is we determine, okay, what world are we in? Are we in the world where he has a bad battery? or we are in the world we has a bad alternator.
Mhm.
Okay, and then we can test for that. Now, the thing is that those we can actually falsify that it's a battery problem or an alternator problem. We can actually falsify that. But you just said earlier that God is unfalsifiable, empirically unfalsifiable. There's no data that goes against his existence, right? So I'm saying that it's just like the mechanic issue. Turning the ignition is underdetermined. Well, now we're looking at a universe and we don't know. It could be a god. It could be something else. But this universe underdetermines what we should believe about the origin of its existence, if it had an origin.
Right. And you're not going to love this answer, but I'm going to say it anyways. You're still asking me to believe that that car created itself or always existed. And that's the less logical part of this. Yes, we use diagnostics, and the diagnostics are based on our understanding of the laws of physics, electromagnetism, entropy, right? These are things that we understand. Why is the battery not working? Well, it probably worked at one point. It's running down entropically. Okay, is it being recharged by the alternator, which is designed by an intelligence to use the kinetic energy of the engine to recharge the battery? Well, it's not. The alternator's not working. We test it with the voltmeter. That's the problem. We would use observable reality, the laws of physics, to determine such a thing.
Okay. So far I see is just a disagreement with the conclusion. Let's just start. Let me ask, do you think that the existence of all atoms, okay, that's underdetermined? Do you think it's underdetermined in the sense that
Well, no, I want to finish that point, and then we'll get to this next one, because I get it. The chat saying I'm switching the thing. I'm telling you guys, and you guys you need to listen to me. You're asking me to believe that the car always existed or it created itself. This is actually the theory. This is actually, you find whatever you want to say. That car always existed or it created itself. And I'm saying it's more likely that the car existed through some sort of process like adherent with the laws of physics that we know. That's literally the discussion. We can get however cute and nuanced as we want with it. It's less logical to think that the car always existed.
I agree with you there, but I agree with you there. I'm fine with saying that it's crazy to think that the car has always been there because of our priors of humans creating cars, right?
Right. Our measurement of observable reality. What we've observed and deduced about observable reality as long as we as humans have watched such a thing, yes.
Okay, but I'm just talking about cars. Was that a question? I couldn't tell.
It was just a statement wrapping up that discussion and why I think it's less logical, less reasonable. Kudos to Parker. I wanted to make sure he feels good about me using the right verbiage here. It is less likely that the car created itself than it always existed. And this is the crux of my argument. Mm-hmm. Isn't God of the Bible is proven. It's that the fact there is a universe and the fact that there is, and Parker and I never talked about it, DNA, abiogenesis is a major problem. These two things, if you want to invoke a solution outside of a creator, it's literal miracles, non-scientific postulations that have not been able to be, nor will able to be ever repeated. And it will kick the can down the road. In 10 years, we're going to create abiogenesis. They're not doing it.
We're agreeing on the conclusion that it's not reasonable to think that the car's always been there or popped out of nothing. But I think you and I have very different reasons. I'm saying that why that's reasonable is because we already have knowledge of an intelligent being existing that is disposed to creating that kind of thing for its goals. Okay, so that is why I think it's unreasonable to think that the car has always existed. You are, on the other hand, I don't know. You can't be appealing to that, because if you're appealing to that, then you would be begging the question, right, against the atheist who thinks there is no intelligent being of the sort that brought about a universe, right? So there's got to be, I guess, in other words, do you agree with me about the reasons for why we think that cars haven't always existed?
I think we agree on that, yeah, because we're bound to logic and reason.
If you agree with me there, then that means that the way that we reason about that kind of thing is based on already knowing about an intelligent being of the sort called a human being that is disposed to creating that kind of stuff, right? Okay. Right. So then if that's the analogy you're using and you extend it to the universe, if you're saying, I already know about this thing named God or this thing called God or this disembodied mind, and it creates things like this, that's exactly what's in question.
So the argument is saying that because we know this reality and how it works, we're trying to infer God's reality. Maybe
No, it's
I rarely lose track of what the point you're making.
yeah, I'm sorry. So I think that's
No,
what I'm
it's not,
saying.
I'm sure it's
I'm
my
making
fault.
a claim about how we come to intentional explanations, design explanations. My claim is that when we look at something and we infer a design, okay, that comes from the fact that we already know that there's an intelligent being of the sort that's
Right,
just
right. That's what I
creating that
thought.
kind
Okay.
of thing.
Right. So I think a way to potentially look at this would be before man had really been on the earth for an extended amount of time. They always postulated creators, gods. They became very fanciful and outrageous, the birds and the rocks, etc. But I think that the human intuition about being in this existence is that something made it. Now we ended up attributing a bunch of different deities in a bunch of different ways, but I think to say that to make it's I call it the weak anthropic principle. The idea that it only looks designed because we don't know what we're looking at is entirely dismissing that we do know what we're looking at and it appears designed. To me, it's a non-starter. It's a non-answer to the question. Yes, I get it. We don't know what a universe not being designed would look like, but we know that in our universe there are laws that would prevent something like a universe always existing or having created itself. So it's to me it's not a valid point. Yeah, I get it. We don't know, but we do know how this universe works, which means that you have to believe that there was a suspension of the laws of physics, that there was basically a miracle that created it and we just don't know. And if you want to believe that, it's totally fine with me. I said to Parker earlier, it's 50-50. I think it's like 51-49 personally with scientific predictions in the Bible, etc. But it's 50-50 and that's fine. But earlier I laughed because part thing, like when Blitz gets held to the fire, Parker said it earlier, real, like staunch, actual atheist, not agnostic atheist like Parker is. You say, where did it come from? And they say, I don't know. And when we go back to the car analogy, and I say, where did the car come from? And I say it's a design. And the person says, I don't know. It's a non-answer. To actually invoke the idea because it looks like it's designed and say, I don't know. I don't know. Then the answer is you don't know what it actually means is that, and I would argue this, nobody's an actual atheist. I don't think anybody's actually a theist. I don't think anybody's actually an atheist. I think we are on the spectrum of agnostic theist and agnostic atheist, outside of religious indoctrination and religious trauma.
Okay, so there's two things. The first thing is that I want to return to the how I come to infer design. There's a second point I'm going to make to there, but I guess I want so I guess what's confusing too is that, okay, like here's another added point to the intentional explanation stuff. If I told you that there was this planet, right, where there were aliens lived on the planet, right, okay, and their biology was such that they did not have feet at all.
Okay.
They were like slug-like, let's say.
Okay. But they weren't floating. They were like a snake or something. They were getting around.
Yeah, they're like slug people or something. Okay.
Okay.
If you went to that planet and then saw a shoe, okay,
Right.
Why is that weird? Like, why wouldn't you infer that the slugs made the shoe? Because they don't have a certain kind of biology or a certain kind of body that would make that kind of thing to fulfill its goals of traveling, right? You would infer that it's got to be something like us, right? And so,
or that they had feet and they lost their feet, or there is something somewhere that has
exactly
feet.
something like that, right?
Right.
And so one way that now, if I told you, I could describe aliens to you with different types of bodies, and then you can make predictions about the different things that they would design based on their biology. Now, here's the weird thing. If I told you that there was an alien, okay, that had no body, it was disembodied, it had just a mind,
okay,
then there's just no clue about what we would see on that planet. In fact, we could actually rule out, anything like our kind of stuff, like why would they need shoes, right? Why would they need clothing? Why would they need, it's just, the idea is that part of design inferences is knowing about the kind of biology the organism is, right? And then making inferences about what would help that alien fulfill its goals given that kind of biology or the way that it is.
I
The
got it.
idea of God is a mind without a body, and so it completely opens the door to whatever.
Okay.
Okay.
So I've got your point. Does
Okay.
this, in this thought experiment, did you and I get on a rocket ship and fly to this planet where the slugs are, or did we go into a different reality?
Let's just say we saw these slugs on
Okay.
I think they just discovered moons on Saturn, right, or something.
Right.
I think, yeah, so we saw it on moon on Saturn or something.
Okay. So you're asking me to believe that the shoe always existed or it created itself.
No, I'm pointing out that
Yes,
I'm
you are.
not asking you to
That's
do that.
the point.
I'm saying that,
Yes.
I'm saying that when you look at the shoe and you think that that's not produced by natural process, is that you have background knowledge of the kind of organism that you are, right, that makes those things, right, for its goals given its biology. And the idea of God is that it has no God has no biology, God has no body, and there are no predictions or data that you would expect to see in a universe with such a being, because there's nothing specific that it would need for its goals, given the kind of biology it would have.
I understand, and I understand you're making a high level point here that I'm like a rock skipping on water. I keep catching bits of it, and I think I'll be able to. I'll let you keep talking it through. But it's as simple in my mind, and the reason I asked it, we left and went from our planet to this moon on Saturn, is we would make our deduction based on what we've observed about how this reality works. And again, going there and seeing a shoe, because we're in this reality and we know how it works, and trying to convince me that because they don't have feet and because we didn't see it, or because you just don't want to believe in the alien shoe cobbler, you refuse to believe that something created that shoe, or it was created through organic processes, or it always existed. This is the crux of the issue. Now we can get as I love your mind and I want to go further on it, but we're talking in these hypotheticals. You're very philosophic minded. We're talking in these ideals, in these pictures, these concepts is the word I'm looking for. At the root of what we're talking about has been my argument most of the night, which is that to try to convince me that the universe either always existed or created itself is less logical than an agent outside of this universe with the resources necessary created it. Same thing with the shoe. It's the same thing with the car. The conscious mind with the agency and the resources to create the car or the shoe is more likely than it creating itself or having always existed. And literally when I talk to atheists and I press them and I say, then how did the universe get here? And they go, I don't know. Doesn't matter if it's Burgundy or Blitz, or I've debated Kenneth Leonard, I've debated some of the premier atheists, at least on TikTok. And they go, I don't know. And it's fine. And I say, it's fine that you don't know. So say you stop thinking it's not a belief system.
Yeah, this is what the other. Remember, I said there were 2 points. That was the other point, right? We can say I don't know and rule out certain explanations. For instance, my shoes went missing, and I don't know why they went missing, but I know it's not a shoe stealing fairy, right? So saying I don't know is compatible with ruling out God as an explanation, or thinking that God is a bad explanation. That was the second point. But you're saying that I'm making a lot of very philosophical, whatever. And maybe this is a bunch of philosophy mumbo jumbo. But you have to.
I didn't say mumbo jumbo.
Yeah, but you have to keep in mind that what I'm doing is exactly what scientists do. What they do is they put forth a hypothesis, and then they operate in terms of hypotheticals. Okay, right when you introduce the word "if," you're talking about a possibility, a hypothetical. You're kind of stepping out of actuality, right? You're saying, hey, if this hypothesis were true, if it were true, we'd expect to see X, Y, Z. That is how the scientific method progresses. Is that we take a hypothesis and we ask the word "if." And so, in the same way, if there was a creature like us on another planet with a similar kind of planet, I would expect them to build technology to protect their feet. Okay, I wouldn't, and it would look like ours, given that they have the same kind of biology. I would not expect slug people to do the same. Okay, right. And so now the question is, if God exists, what kinds of things would we see Him create? But the guy has no biology. He's completely free from physical constraints, and so there's the question of, okay, how do we? If this hypothesis is true, what would we expect to see? It's such a difficult question, and that's what makes the hypothesis impoverished, I think. And I'll leave it at that.
Well, I think it, and I'd love to get Parker's take if he wants to jump in there. I'm 100% okay with all of the things that we've discussed tonight being 50-50. I'm biased. I think we're more in favor of a creator being more logical. The thing is, there's this very hubris-driven, very, I think, egged on, encouraged by academia, what I call the secular bias, the secular scientific bias, where you go through all of these years of education and you come out basically there's no God and atheism is smart and believing in intelligent design is stupid, and you get on these lives and people are very intelligent. Blitz has no, like, Blitz talking with your average Christian.
You and Blitz, you have this rivalry. It's like Blitz is like your nemesis or something. But anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, I love Blitz. We've had good and bad days. Our last discussion was really good.
It's like every time you talk, you mention Blitz.
Well, in the context of the conversation we just had, we did have a very productive conversation the last time. But I'll tell you what went off the rails with him and I is his interpretation of the universe not being locally real and the collapsing of the wave function has changed, and that's frustrating to me. And at one point he preached the Everett many worlds interpretation, if you're familiar. And it's basically like the multiverse, but times a million. Every time a wave collapses, it's infinite possibilities happen. And so this is how it happens. So he marginalized quantum mechanics. And I think as he's done this, I mean, he's on my YouTube channel a year and a half ago, and we had a very cogent debate. But I think as he's debated more and more young Earth creationist Muslims, I think he's becoming more jaded. And my frustration is he's starting to actually bully people with his scientific, showing his scientific papers.
Whether that's true or not, let's just try to stick on topic. I'm sorry I interrupted you about that.
That's fine. I don't appreciate intelligent people misrepresenting science because of their bias, and that's where I'm getting more frustrated with Blitz. And he left. I came on and he left. He doesn't debate me. Fine, we can be nemesis. It's not a mutual. Anyways, I press the atheist, and at this point they say there is no God. God is a fairy tale. That's actually, sorry, I'll mention him again. The live that came on with Blitz. God is a myth, or believing in God is illogical, or something like that. And I basically pressed him on this point, and now he's to steady state universe that it always existed. To say you can't, this is not intellectually honest. And I want to tell you both, because you guys are both very intellectually honest. I think you guys are both amazing individuals. I love speaking with you. I know, Danny, we've talked on the side. I know I feel that way about you. I'm a big fan of what you do. Anyways, to say belief in God is not viable and then to punt on the idea of where the universe came from is intellectually dishonest. Say, I don't know, and we're all fine. Nobody gets hurt. Everything's good. I don't know. I'm an agnostic. I don't know. Don't say there's no God. It's not tenable. And then when you're asked about the very essence of how this universe got here, say, I don't know.
Well,
and the chat's saying it too. We don't know.
If I don't know why my shoes went missing, is it dishonest to say that it's not the shoe stealing fairy?
No, it's fine to say I have no idea what happened to my shoes.
Yeah, but there you can say I don't know what the initial moments are of the expansion of the universe or whatever happened prior, but God is a myth in the same way that I don't know where my shoes went. I know it's not Thor.
Yeah, but it's very possible that if somebody stole your shoes, it was somebody who stole your shoes. It's less likely than they fucking got up and walked away.
The point is that when you say I don't know, that you can still rule out certain explanations.
Okay,
right?
let's do this. This is the shoe example. Okay, you have shoes. Your shoes are in your house. You love your shoes. You were planning to wear them. You came in to get your shoes, and your shoes were gone. And now you have to say, what the fuck happened to my shoes? My shoes are gone. And you say, maybe somebody stole my shoes. And I say, you believe in a fairy tale. You believe in a fairy tale. Do you believe in the fairy goblin shoe thief? This is the conversation we're having. Say, I don't know. I don't know. And it's as likely that somebody came into my house and stole my shoes as anything else. I left them somewhere, and certainly more likely than the fuck they walked out of my house without any agency.
Yeah, look, that's the point. Fine, but the point of the analogy wasn't to say that the shoe stealing fairy is like God. I can grant God's existence for the sake of argument. The point is that I was trying to illustrate that if someone says, I don't know what explains X, but it's not Y, right? That's not disingenuous.
it's disingenuous to say that there is no God and you know that, or believing anything to the contrary is not intellectually sound.
Okay, maybe think of it this way. I'm having a brain fart. Yeah. So maybe think of it. I literally just lost my mind. I don't know what I was saying. But yeah, I'm just saying that. Do you agree that you cannot know what explains a phenomenon, but then rule out certain explanations?
Yes.
Okay. So take this. Okay, I know what I was saying now. Imagine, just for sake of argument, I know you don't accept it, the logical problem of evil is a sound argument. What that means is that there is no God in the traditional sense. Now, I know you don't accept the logical problem, but just imagine that
I accept the logical problem. I just think it's answerable.
Well, then if it's answerable, then it's not a logical problem. But the point is that logical problem of evil entails there is no God. Okay. Then you look at the universe and you're wondering, okay, how did this come to be? I don't know. But you can rule out God given this auxiliary argument that has nothing to do with the universe, or at least physical matter and why it's there or whatever. So like someone like me, right? I don't disbelieve God because I look at science. I don't think science really has a big say-so in the question of there's an all-powerful, all-good, all-knowing, disembodied creator. I don't really think it has much to say. I know we disagree on that, but I look at other philosophical issues like problems with the divine properties, evil and such, and think that God is either impossible or extremely implausible. And then I look at the universe, and given that background information, yeah, I don't know what explains the universe, but it's definitely not the thing that I have this sound argument for saying that it doesn't exist. And I don't think it's dishonest, right? And it could be, I don't know if Blitz is that way. I know that the topic now seems to be Blitz, but but I would imagine that it's that Blitz is sympathetic to a lot of auxiliary arguments against the existence of God, and then looks at the universe and thinks that, well, I don't know, but it's not that given my auxiliary arguments.
I didn't mean to talk about Blitz anymore, but the issue is coming from he's very respected on here as a scientific mind, and he's beginning to say more and more things that science is disproving God. He out of hand dismissed the fine tuning argument today. Are you familiar with that?
Wait. Let me start with agreement. And I would bet money that if I asked Blitz, do you think science disproves God, or do you think science makes God less probable? I would bet he would say no. Right.
I'll take that
now.
Bet. How much do you want to
You'll
bet?
take that bet. Okay, but we have to set it up. It has to be on Parker's Live. I won't say anything on my word. Okay. And I'll ask him straight up. Okay. I'll ask him I'll even write it down and send it to you exactly what I'm asked. But if I asked him, I know he would say no to this question. Does science disprove God? I would expect him to say no. Okay. Now the second thing, does science make God, unreasonable or implausible?
Untenable.
I would guess he would say no there. I would bet. Okay. Now, here's what, if I ask this, does science need God, or does science show that God exists? He would say no, right? Do you want to take that bet?
The bet I would take is him. Oh man, there's just no way it's going to work out because people are going to message him, and there's no way.
You're right.
I mean,
You're right.
It's a trap. But the based on many hours of conversations with him, including my last one and including him tonight, his take is that science has, for all intents and purposes, removed any inkling of the necessity of a creator.
That he would accept. I think he would accept that. He does not think God is necessary to explain anything in science. But that's different than saying that science shows that God is improbable, implausible, or there is no God, right?
I think he would say science says that God is improbable or implausible. I think he would say that, yeah.
You see, I'm with you on the necessity thing, but I don't think he would say that Big Bang cosmology, for instance, shows that God is improbable. I don't think he would say that.
Big Bang that thing they used to teach that was wrong, the Big Bang?
Whatever cosmological model you accept. I don't know which one. Do you accept one?
I think the universe was created in its basic form, which is what was predicted and observed by the James Webb Space Telescope.
As far as the touted models, you don't adhere to any of them?
No, I don't think the Big Bang is valid. I mean, I've got a scientist coming on my show on Friday who has a paper he wrote. He's an Italian scientist, giving a different interpretation for CMBR and redshift other than expanding universe. A paper which promptly got him annexed out of science, and now he's a mechanical engineer. And he had no idea that somebody like me would have him on his show to get out his story. He's one of many blacklisted from science for questioning the dogma. Same thing happened with Fred Hoyle. Steady state universe, it could be expanding, whatever. The Big Bang sucks, though, and it's done.
Well, going back to the original point, so suppose someone like me, and I know Blitz is sympathetic to the problem of evil. We think that, although he doesn't really, he doesn't talk about it as much as me. But suppose I think he's on board with the argument. Then, when we look at cosmology, given something like the problem of evil, we can just rule out. We can say, "I don't know,"
Right.
and rule out God. Right? Do you think that that's a better understand? Because earlier you said it was just dishonest.
I think that the best science has been able to do, with quite literally all the king's horses, all the king's men, vast resources, an openly secular bias, the open control of information started formally by Thomas Henry Huxley. You've seen my show on this, who created Nature magazine, and all of the other secular scientists at the Royal Society and the American Natural History Museum. The best they've come up with is forgeries, frauds, fakes, and shit theories that have been totally ruined by time.
Okay, but I'm asking, if someone has an independent argument against the existence of God, like the problem of evil, and then looks at science and says, I don't know what explains this phenomenon, I don't know what explains the universe, but I know it's not God, that doesn't seem disingenuous to me at all. In fact, that's my position.
What is God? So no agency outside of space-time with the resources necessary? There's no way. Are you talking about God of the Bible, or are you talking about any kind of creator?
Some kind of disembodied mind that is maximally, or to the greatest extent possible, good, powerful, and knowledgeable.
Okay, so the God of the Bible. So what about a God who is impartial, has no moral compass, was just having a good time, having fun? Oh shit, built the universe and put it in motion. What if it's like Brian Greene and Neil deGrasse Tyson said in our last simulation discussion? It's a 13-year-old in the basement 1,000 years from now, when we're highly technologically advanced. He did an ancestry simulation, AI helped him write it, and he fucking forgot about it and walked away, and this is happening. Even that's not a viability?
Well, okay, so if you stop... So have you ever heard of ichtheism? I think there's another name for it, but I forgot. Have you heard of ichtheism? It's the view that they don't even think that God doesn't exist, or God does exist, or even take a position on it, because they don't even know what God is supposed to mean. And so the idea is that traditional monotheism has those all omni attributes plus extra stuff, and like the spaceless, timeless, immaterial, all that. All right. And once you start to say, okay, well, what if a God without the omni attributes? Okay. What are we talking about now? And at some point, this is compatible with a Marvel character, right? Like, I mean, and then at that, because I mean, what are we talking about if we're not talking about a God that's not maximally powerful, maximally great? You know, it seems like we're just talking about a powerful alien.
Maybe you could call it that. Are you familiar with Demis Hassabis? Either of you guys? He's the genius chess champion in his teens, verifiable genius, who has now been a major part of machine learning and all of the modeling for AI. Excuse me. He just was on Lex Friedman's show, and they were talking about AI and where it's going, and then the simulation came up. And basically, Lex Friedman said, I hear that you entertain the simulation, which, if you don't know this, a lot of the Silicon Valley brass have very much been entertaining this idea for a decade now. Sam Altman, Elon Musk, obviously a lot of these guys. So anyways, he said, what's your take on it? And Friedman gives the classic bullshit answer. Millions of simulations, the future event, future technology allowed it. There's a billion of them. We're not in base reality. And Hassabis says, no, I think this is an organic one-off simulation. Now, he's not talking anything about a designer. He doesn't mention anything about God. I think he's probably Indian, birthright, definitely not a Christian, best I know, but just his understanding of the natural reality and the sciences and what he's developing inside of, machine learning and AI. His most logical deduction is that we are in a simulated reality. Now, science was going this way about 10 years ago, and they were talking about it, even Neil deGrasse Tyson. And then I think it hit him, holy shit, If it's a simulated reality, something created it, and they just bailed, like just jumped off they're out of there, and now they come up with all these bullshit saying infinite egress and who created the program or whatever. I think to dismiss out of hand, especially when here's the things that have been discovered in the last 75 years. Quantum entanglement, which was totally, this is something Blitz and I got into. I guess I get to mention him again. If you know the story, Niels Bohr was saying that quantum entanglement mathematically worked, and he thinks it'll happen. Einstein said rubbish. He called it spooky action at a distance. He put a hard stop on the research of it. Nobody researched quantum entanglement until John Bell and the Bell inequality theorem. He built a model and said, "Hey, quantum entanglement's a thing." Science said no. They wouldn't publish his paper. The Physical Review wouldn't publish his paper. Some hippies in Big Sur that were into like Eastern mysticism, they were like doing hallucinogenics and doing the science thing. They were talking about manifesting. They picked it back up, ended up getting it back going, and then Anton Zeilinger just won the Nobel Prize in November for proving quantum entanglement and that the universe is either not local or not real. One of the two is true, and it is unavoidable. This is something they didn't know. Actually, Einstein hated the idea. Earlier, Blitz said he was a material girl. We have literally been told that we are in a material reality. Science has proven this, and honestly, there's a connection. What does Madonna sing? We are in a material world. I am a material girl. When you're stuck in purely matter, you don't think about existential things. You don't think about eternity. You're just a good consumer. I think the people in charge want us to just be good consumers. Well, it turns out they're entirely wrong, and it's irreconcilable at this moment to explain quantum entanglement in a locally real universe. This is a problem that is not a problem for simulation, but is entirely a problem for the standard model. One of the 5 or 6 things that are absolutely blowing this thing to smithereens. You guys are young. Think critically, you got to do better, and you have to do real science. Because this whole Darwinian materialist secular agenda is an agenda. It's not science, okay? They just proved that the universe isn't locally real. That's a problem.
I feel like we're a little distracted. Look, here's my last word on the issue, and then maybe we can move on what other Parker has in store for us. But if you drop some of these omni attributes that the Semitic traditions typically attribute to God, then I am a lot less atheist, right? I would lean to a loose form of atheism or a more kind of an agnostic position. I think those omni attributes, the kind of attributes that are given to theism or the God of the philosophers, are the most problematic attributes that, that's my big beef with God. If
Right.
God is reduced to something like a celestial from Marvel,
Right.
then at that point it's a purely empirical issue for me. There's not a really, I'm more of a philosophy guy.
Right.
It's not really a philosophical issue anymore in terms of whether the celestials exist. They're perfectly coherent. It's like as coherent as Harry Potter. But it's like not as, my issue is with traditional monotheism, classical theism, which these are different. And if you're dropping that, then I have a lot less to say, and I'm a little bit sympathetic is the wrong word, but I am a lot less critical.
Okay.
But
yeah, which is fair.
That's my last word for this discussion.
Okay, I don't have to do it, but basically, I get that. I can defend that position. I'm not going to go as far as I did with Parker earlier. I tried to explain omniscience, omnipotence, all good. I think I did a pretty good job. It's an exhausting thing. I particularly don't think I'm going to do it again. But let me just elucidate this point. The issue in the world isn't that of if some sort of non-involved, Parker mentioned personal being earlier, non-involved, apathetic, just super designer that like, shit, I'm going to make this. They should have fun with this. They walked away. They died, whatever. That scenario, I think if people who are biased against the idea of basically the Semitic God that you had talked about, if people were given that opportunity to reconcile the most parsimonious explanation for the collapsing of the wave, the quantum entanglement, the Big Bang in trouble, having no idea where the universe actually came from or when, abiogenesis, having no idea where abiogenesis came from, where DNA came from, the reversing of entropy, which is not something we see through natural processes, all the things that we could go through. If you said something created this and doesn't care what you do whatever you want to do. Just have sex with who you want to, get all you want to, do everything. I just made this shit. It's fine. Have fun. I think people will be like, that's a possibility. When you go, hey, it's the Semitic God, like you said, people are like, nope, it's not that. And so I think this is where people need to be intellectually honest about their bias. A lot of times it's not that having a creator, an agency outside of space and time, makes less sense. It's that they don't like the idea of it. And our bias plays tricks on us. And the bias will say, you do this kind of stuff all the time. I used to be a golf manager. I used to be a golf professional and manage golf courses. And I would sell somebody a golf club, that the pro that they liked it. And I knew, I really talked it up. They bought that club and they knew they were just going to hit every drive. And they went out and hit the driver like they've never hit it. And then later, it went down the rails on them. But the placebo, the belief that it would do well, actually, created this thing. Our bias is very strong and it's very effectual in this reality. And I think that, part of when I do my apologetic, I try to separate it in two components. The feasibility of us being a created order, and really the lack of consistency and evidence for a non-created order. And the issue is this: being taught as consensus science, the irony that they have no idea what the fuck they believe, and they're wrong all the time, and they don't know anything, and it's consensus. What a joke. And you speak against it and you're in big trouble. And this is the big thing, okay? I have an 8-year-old. He's not going to public education. We're homeschooling him right now, thank God. I think if any parents can homeschool, I support that. I think it's really important to pass your ideals on, etc. If my son could go to public school and be taught, we don't know, we've got some theories, but let's say it this way. You're taught science, how science works, physics, mathematics, engineering, the things that we know, history of science, say, you're taught these things. Great. But when it comes to speculating about how and when the universe got here, and how and when the earth got here, and how and when life got here, that needs to be its own class called speculative origin science. And until science comes clean and says we are teaching a belief system as fact to the children who don't know better and trust us with taxpayer dollar, I will do this as full-time as God allows me, because that's the problem. I'm not asking for what I believe to be taught in school. I wouldn't want you. Don't teach the Bible in school. I'm a huge advocate for separating the state and separating the education system from beliefs. And atheism is a religious belief. Secular science is a religious belief. Stop teaching the kids as though it's fact, and we're not going to have this discussion, okay? Don't tell the kids you're an animal in a meaningless universe and science has proven it, because they haven't. And every day, it's falling apart. And I'm a reporter covering.
Preach, brother.
It's just so exciting, dude. I love it. Watching these things fall apart I was called to do it, and I love doing it. So, God willing, I won't be going anywhere, and you can see me ranting like a lunatic about these things as it keeps.
Hey, look, brother, man. Hey, brother VOR, man. I just been learning, man. I'm like a student, brother. You've been on here spitting, man, spitting truth. Hey, Danny, bro. I just wanted to come on here, brother, and just tell you, man. I apologize. I'm gonna unblock you, bro. For real, man. Like you're a really nice guy, Danny. I hear you speak. You just seem like a really nice guy, bro. Like for real. And I go all the way back. I remember our first time that we had spoke, bro. You know what I'm saying? You had put me on to the game, put me on to some great philosophy, man. Some great philosophy. You know what I'm saying? Gave me books, and I will always, brother, respect you for that. And so, like I said, I think I got a little bit heated because I think you were kind of disrespecting me. I'm gonna be honest. I think that you did kind of disrespect me. You know what I'm saying? But the Bible says forgive, and so I forgive you, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm squashing it. I forgive you, brother. Yeah. God bless you.
I'm gonna accept your apology. I will say that it's really impressive to me that you've only been dating
Jesus.
You got a lot of potential, man. And let me tell you, this stuff is not easy. My suggestion is not to underestimate it on both sides. It's not easy. So, yeah, man, we're good.
Well, and I want to add to that. It's cool you jump back in,
Yes, sir.
Q-Top.
Yes, sir.
You know, when I came on, you didn't know who I was. You get a little bit better feel for it. Parker and Danny, we've talked a lot. Have we ever had a heated exchange? Has it ever become uncomfortable? No. So you got to understand, I've seen you melt down with Parker. I've seen you melt down with Danny. What's the common denominator? This is what I was talking about earlier. Like, and I agree with Danny. You've got a gift. You're going to learn. You're going to mature with it. But bro, like, you can have these discussions and in love and leave there with them going, that dude's awesome. Not like, holy shit, what just happened? So you're going to learn. And anyways, so it's a good opportunity for me to jump off with him being here. Parker, love you, man. Danny,
Nah, bro,
always
like
good.
I said, I'm not
Talking
going to
again,
stay for too long, man. You know, I didn't want to like crash y'all's party or nothing. You know, I just came in because I heard
Party's
you speaking
over.
more.
Party's
Yeah.
over.
Yeah,
the
they already had the convo. If you want to stay and say stuff, Q-Top, you can.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I had listened, man. It was a great convo. All right, VOR, man. Peace out. Yep.
Yeah,
Great conversations.
You're at work still?
Yep. Still at work.
Oh, well,
Danny, did you see what happened with him and J Mike?
I did.
Just some of it or all of it?
I think I saw all of it. He got really mad. He got really mad at you.
Yeah, he got mad at me. I wasn't mad at him.
Well, you know what argument he was basically running is Graham Oppie's argument against the existence of God, essentially. So if you want to look at that,
I did.
but I don't want to be here for too long. Yeah, thanks for having me on, Parker.
Of course. It was good seeing you again, Danny.